Welcome to College Football Playoff Top 25, presented by AT&T.
Numbers are everywhere, all around us, leading us. More than digits in a sequence, they're symbols of success.
We're one of the best teams.
What's my definition of success?
We have something to prove.
Listening to what your heart says.
Downfield wide open. College football playoff hopes alive. With everything that's at stake.
This is where the line will end and the final test begins for sole possession of the number one.
No, he did it.
Yes, he did. What a play! So many numbers in the world, so many teams vying for this prize.
I know I can change. We are not enough. We are not the same.
But who's counting? We are.
That is the empty college football playoff bracket, and for the last couple of weeks, the committee hasn't gotten a lot of help in terms of teams eliminating themselves. Earlier today in Grapevine, Texas, 12 members meeting, putting together their penultimate rankings. That means only one more after this one. It comes Sunday. That's the final exam, and only a few more data points left to be unveiled on Conference Championship Weekend. Glad to have you with us. College Football Playoff Top 25. Only until the bottom of the hour before college basketball tonight. Reese Davis, Booger McFarland, Joey Galloway, and Greg McElroy. What are you looking forward to tonight?
Well, the committee has jumped Ole Miss with Oregon and Texas Tech. That's when they had Lane Kiffin as their head coach. Now that he's at LSU, what does the committee do with Ole Miss? I can't wait to find out.
I want to see at the top of the rankings, 19 through 23 lost. There's been a lot of losses in that 20 to 25 area in the past couple weeks. I want to see what happens Group of 5. Tulane has been the only Group of 5 team ranked. They were at 24. Does a team like JMU now jump into the rankings? I want to see what happens in that Group of 5 area.
Yeah, I mean, 21 through 25 might tell the story, too. Is Tennessee in there? Is Missouri in there? Because that benefits Bama. Is Navy in there? That benefits Notre Dame. I think there's a lot to learn in the back half of the rankings, but also it's still, to me, it's been this way from the beginning. 9 through 11, 9 through 12. That's the most fascinating section right now between Notre Dame, Bama, Miami, and BYU. What's the order, and do they change it after last week's results?
And that's one of the things we'll ask. Last year we were told that if you weren't playing, you wouldn't jump another team that wasn't playing, and it would only be determined by what happened in the conference championship games. These are the rules. Just to remind you, 12 teams make the field. They're comprised of the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and the next 7 highest-ranked teams. The 4 highest-ranked teams, regardless of conference, seeded 1 through 4, first-round byes. Seeded 5 through 8, you get a home game in the first round before going to the neutral site bowl game. So let's have a look. College Football Playoff Top 25. These rankings presented by AT&T. And for the first time this season, James Madison is ranked. That could be really big depending on what happens in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, massive right now. And now if James Madison takes care of business and Duke somehow pulls the upset of Virginia in the ACC championship game, you could see 2 G5 teams, one from the American, one from the Sun Belt. They're in the college football playoff. And if you look at what Coach Chesney's team has done, they have been fantastic. That one loss coming against Louisville, another ACC team, but they have been dominant. And while the strength of schedule doesn't reflect dominance, they haven't really left it up to chance very often.
And that's one of the things that has held James Madison back. North Texas also playing in this conference championship game in the American. They, too, are very low in terms of strength of schedule. You see the other teams 21 through 25. Now, Tulane is in the American Championship game as well against North Texas. They are up 4 spots all the way to 20. And you see Virginia is going to the ACC Championship game at number 17.
Been so impressed with what Tony Elliott has been able to do with this Virginia team and winning the last couple games when they had to get into the ACC Championship game against Virginia Tech. They left no doubt that they were the better team. And then looking at Tulane sitting at number 20, that's huge for the American. Now whoever wins that game between Tulane and North Texas, they're absolutely going to be one of the top 5 conference champions in rankings.
All right, let's start counting them down because this next group is going to show you where the cut line is and also where the pecking order is. Utah finishes with 10 wins, but they're down 2 spots. The run would seemingly be over for the Utes in terms of trying to get into the college football playoff. Number 14. The Vanderbilt Commodores, also 10-win team, only 2 losses on the road at Texas, at Alabama.
You know what's amazing to me is everybody keeps beating the horn and talking about Texas, Texas, Texas. Well, if you like Texas, you got to love Vanderbilt at 10-2. How they played. Diego Pavia should be in New York for the Heisman Trophy. Clark Lee gets an extension. This is a team that's on the rise, and they're playing as good a football as anybody in America.
Vanderbilt with an historic season. Pavia likely to go to New York. He might win the Heisman Trophy, too. I mean, I think there's a very good chance of that. Number 13. The Texas Longhorns, after that great win against A&M, and they beat Vanderbilt head-to-head, they're a spot ahead.
Yeah, and if you look at their strength of record, sitting at 12, game control 17, they've played with their food a couple times. Kentucky comes to mind. Mississippi State comes to mind. They didn't look good in the first half of the season, lost to Florida. Steve Sarkisian makes a compelling argument. On their best day, yes, they can play with anybody, A&M, Vandy, Oklahoma, but on their worst day, they can also play down to the level of competition. I think the committee appropriately places them at 13.
At number 12, 1 spot ahead of the Longhorns, the Miami Hurricanes. Now, we wondered if there would be course correction, that Miami would get a little closer to Notre Dame. That hasn't happened. So the Hurricanes sitting there at 12.
And Mario Cristobal at Miami got to be feeling like, oh, here we go again. Deja vu, 10-2 again, and we're going to get left out, especially with the win over Notre Dame, who everybody loves, including this committee. I still think at some point they're going to do the right thing, and if Notre Dame is up for a playoff spot, Miami should be over them based on what happened on the field.
Well, they're not playing anymore, and that's something we'll ask Hunter Yurachek about coming up in just a few minutes. Now, number 11. Number 11 is the cut line, one would think, and it's still BYU. Now, look, BYU fans have said they aren't getting their due as an at-large team, but BYU can simply beat Texas Tech, and then they earn their way into the field.
Yeah, they get their shot, and they played Texas Tech this season. They lost, didn't play great, turned the ball over 3 times in that game, and that was their only loss of the season. This is interesting for the Big 12. If BYU can beat Texas Tech, all of a sudden the Big 12 is getting 2 teams in at that point, and they could steal one of those spots from one of the other teams that are sitting there on the cut line, hoping to get in. Big game for BYU.
Okay, so if you follow the basketball tournament or follow the season, bubble teams. So who's sitting right on the bubble right now? And if you also watch odds makers who do such things, perhaps we're looking to see if there's a change here. And there is. Notre Dame is now the team sitting right on the bubble, down 1 spot after finishing the season 10-2 on a 10-game winning streak.
That's got to be really uncomfortable for Marcus Freeman. I mean, they are playing elite-level football. They've been killing everybody, every single one of those 10 wins by double digits. But it does feel like after Alabama lost to Oklahoma, they were kind of overly penalized, dropping all the way behind the Irish and several others. Feels like they might have adjusted a mistake that they had a couple weeks ago.
So Notre Dame is at 10 and 1 spot ahead of the Fighting Irish. Is Alabama. After beating Auburn, they go up 1. Now, this comes down to the classic metrics versus football judgment evaluation. Alabama clearly has the better case over both Notre Dame and Miami by metrics, but it's not a crazy thing to look at Notre Dame and Miami and say, I think they're a better team than Alabama.
Yeah, especially the way Notre Dame has been playing, and Greg mentioned it, the way they've been blowing people out. I'm surprised to see Notre Dame drop 1. But again, we will see Alabama play against Georgia this weekend and see what they are. But I'm surprised to see that switch.
It will be interesting to see. Alabama has another game to play. Georgia beats Alabama. Now Alabama is 10-3. How do you look at Alabama and Notre Dame at that point? That will be fascinating.
And does it give Alabama a little cushion, too? If they lose close, are they still in the field because they're now sitting in front of Notre Dame, who's not playing this weekend?
I think that's probably a really big point. We'll get to the bottom of that with Hunter Yurachek. Oklahoma survived against LSU. They stay 1 spot ahead of the team they beat by a couple of points in Tuscaloosa. And under this matchup, they would play again, this time in Norman. Number 7. Texas A&M falls 4 spots. This would give the Aggies a home game if it were to end this way, just ahead of A&M at number 6. The Ole Miss Rebels, who despite losing Lane Kiffin, move up 1 spot.
And yeah, and I think this is fair. When you look at them at 11-1, it was announced earlier, Lane said that Charlie Weiss Jr., the play caller, will now be able to call plays for Ole Miss into the playoff. I think that'll be a bonus factor for them. But if you look at Ole Miss, with the quarterback being as hot as he's been, Pete Golden, the defensive coordinator, is still there. They will be able to make some noise in the playoff.
So Ole Miss is at number 6, safely in the field, not playing anymore. Alabama's playing Georgia. Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Georgia all finished tied, and Alabama, Georgia won the tiebreakers in the SEC. Oregon's up a spot into the top 5. Things fall their way. Maybe they wind up with a bye in the first round. At number 4, we presume that is going to be Texas Tech, and it is. Red Raiders can win the Big 12 when they take on BYU, maybe get a first-round bye. Georgia, as we've mentioned, plays Alabama in position to get the bye. And then the top 2 will play in the Big 10 championship game. You know, we could wind up with this thing on Selection Day and have 3 of the 4 byes come from the Big Ten.
That would be amazing. The same thing I was thinking, Reese. That would be amazing for the Big Ten.
Okay, so now based on the current rankings, bracket brought to you by AT&T, you see the 4 teams with the bye and you see the matchups. Now, look at how we're doing 11 and 12 now. We're not projecting teams. These will be the 4th and 5th highest ranked conference champions. Logic would dictate if Virginia beats Duke, they'll go into that 11 spot, and the 12 spot then would go to the American champion. If Duke wins, then it's probably going to be the American champion, either Tulane or North Texas, and James Madison. If James Madison wins, door also could be open for the Mountain West if James Madison were to be upset.
A lot of Duke fans out there this weekend.
A lot of Duke fans. A lot of Troy fans, too, maybe from the Mountain West. You never know. So what's a big takeaway for you here initially?
Well, I continue to look at 8 through 12. And when you look at Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, and Miami, Miami's sitting there at 12. If you're Miami at 10 and 2, you're staring up to these 2 teams. There's really nowhere for Miami to go. And I think Miami feels like that, we lost some games, but we're playing really good football right now. Carson Beck is starting to play well. And if we're going to talk about other teams like Notre Dame, got better throughout the season, how come Miami can't get better? How come Miami can't be playing their best football right now? 2 years in a row, a 10 and 2 Miami team, regardless of what you think about how they played, might get left out of the playoff. And to me, that doesn't seem right.
Regardless of how you think they might have played, that does count in this. And so it's interesting to me to see what happens if Alabama happens to lose to Georgia, because they're sitting in front of 2 teams that aren't playing football this upcoming weekend, and it's going to have the question mark of how important is it to get to this conference championship. A&M might have done themselves a favor and not having to play an extra game and getting a home game in this situation. That's going to be interesting to see what happens with those wins and losses in the championship games.
And the committee set a precedent last year, and a different committee, different people on the committee. This exact same scenario, we sat here last year, talked about SMU. SMU had to play on Conference Championship Saturday. They lost that game to Clemson. Clemson won the ACC. What was going to happen with SMU? Would they drop behind Alabama, Ole Miss, Miami, and South Carolina? That was the big question. Who would get in? And the committee did not penalize the team that was required to play that 13th data point. So I think at this point, based on what we saw tonight, assuming Bama doesn't get steamrolled by 28 points, 21 points plus, I think Bama's in the field, regardless of the outcome of Saturday's game. They can only enhance their resume with a win against Georgia for the second time and possibly get all the way up to the point where they're in the 5 spot, which is much coveted, naturally a home playoff game, maybe even a first-round bye.
I mean, that's what it looks like right now, and it also looks like the reasoning for doing it. I'm really fascinated to hear what Hunter Yurachek says was the thought process behind if it's course correction or if it's, if it's something maybe that I've brought this up a lot of times. Sometimes it only takes 1 or 2 people to change their mind if the debate has been heated in the room.
It could also be interesting, Reese, when you mentioned the Big Ten. In the event Georgia loses and Oregon moves up and 3 teams out of the Big Ten get byes in this situation, having not played those tougher schedules, that'll say to those other teams, hey, don't schedule anybody in
It's a real consideration. It might have also motivated the Alabama move. AT&T keeping you connected with Bracket Insights. Heather Dinich over there. Heather, the ACC scenario with Duke and Virginia is a fascinating one.
It is, and the fact that JMU is ranked makes it all the more viable that the ACC could get left out entirely. But when we talk about this spot right here, What if JMU loses? I don't want to eliminate Duke entirely because the selection committee would at least consider the fact that Duke had a top 20 win against Virginia. Guys, we've seen this before. You know, when they get in the room, they're watching the games together. If Duke beats Virginia, they're talking about Duke as the ACC champion, and Duke would have 7 wins against Power 4 opponents. No other group of 5 in the conversation would be able to say that. So while this is extremely significant, I wouldn't rule it out. A couple other things that I'm watching is BYU in the Big 12 is such an X factor in this, because if BYU beats Texas Tech, Notre Dame is probably going to be out. That's the way the math is going to work. But here's the other really interesting thing. And you talked about last year them saying that they're not going to move teams around, right? But if BYU moves out, by default, Miami's going to bump up a spot. If they bump up a spot and they're next to Notre Dame, do they flip them then because of the head-to-head? That's a very curious scenario.
And you know, it might come down to what we just talked about with how close is the debate in the room. They have to stack them up some way. And if there's one person wavering, I'm not sure. I want to reevaluate. Last year, Ward Manuel told us that when he was the chair of the selection committee, that they told the committee, be sure, lock it in. Make sure you know what you believe.
It would be amazing if 2 teams don't play in a weekend.
And flip.
And then flip.
Yeah.
Then what are you saying that tonight? Then tonight couldn't matter. It can't happen.
Don't forget to sign up now. ESPN.com bracket challenge. ESPN.com/CFP challenge for the CFP bracket game. Once the bracket is established, you can do the competition. I think if you were filling out a bracket for the NCAA tournament, you might hitch your wagon to Cameron Boozer, the Duke Blue Devils, Florida and Duke coming up 7:30 Eastern time. Part of that SEC ACC challenge, and Hunter Yurachek is back.
There he is.
He's got some splaining to do now. They flipped some teams.
Hunter's smiling. He's hired a coach. He's in good shape now.
He's ready. His coach might get in the playoff too.
College Football Playoff Top 25 is presented by AT&T. Connecting changes everything. And in part by Mercedes-Benz. You're watching College Football Playoff Top 25, presented by AT&T.
Based on the current college football playoff rankings, here's what the bracket would look like. It is presented by AT&T. Heather Denich brought up, she said, did you guys notice the rematches? I said, yeah, we mentioned Alabama, Oklahoma. She said also Notre Dame, A&M, potentially, and this would be a rematch. And if Tulane were to win the American, they got boat raced by Ole Miss in the regular season. They might get a second shot at them were they to be seeded 11th if they win the American. Verbo Team Spotlight is hotty toddy. Ole Miss moved up a spot despite moving on from Lane Kiffin, or him moving on from them, and Pete Golding taking over. You see the numbers have been outstanding. A couple of notable wins. The loss, they had a lead on Georgia and couldn't finish the deal. And the committee decided that what they had done was appropriate to move them up a spot. We are joined by the chair of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, Hunter Yurachek. Hunter, I think the most notable thing that happened in these rankings is that Alabama moved ahead of Notre Dame. Why?
Reese, I will tell you the debate between Alabama and Notre Dame over the past 3 weeks has been one of the strongest debates we've had in the room for the past 2 years that I've been a member of the committee. And I think this week, as we looked at those two teams and how closely they have been over the past 3 weeks, Notre Dame went on the road, had a strong win at Stanford, but Alabama went on the road in a rivalry game. Looked really good, especially in the first half, getting up 17-0, ran the ball well. Auburn came back at them. They had a great gutsy call on 4th and 2 late in the third quarter to get a touchdown, and then got the turnover late in that game. And I think that was enough to change the minds of a couple of committee members to push Alabama up ahead of Notre Dame in this week's rankings.
You know what the question is going to be, is that you're not going to want to have a team lose in the SEC championship game and get bumped out if, say, BYU wins the Big 12. Did that come up in the room?
It did not, Reese. We will evaluate the results of the championship game after they are all completed over the weekend.
Okay, here is a really important factor, too, because you're still honoring head-to-head between Alabama and Oklahoma with the Sooners being up. But it has not carried the day for Miami and Notre Dame. Neither Miami nor Notre Dame play anymore. Among the teams who are finished playing, do not play this week, can their order flip next Sunday in the final rankings, or is the order for the teams whose hay is in the barn, whose resume is complete, are they set in terms of where they are relative to one another?
Great question, Reese. The management committee during the offseason provided some clarification to some comments that were made last year. And indeed, idle teams can move following the results of the championship games and how they impact the teams that are around those that play in the championship game, and data such as strength of schedule, teams that may be idle. So, yes, teams that are idle can move up or down.
So we're not set with Miami definitively being behind Notre Dame no matter what. Is that fair to say?
Reese, following the championship games, we will re-rank the top 25 teams, and we'll see where they fall.
I'm going to take that as the Canes still have a chance. Hunter, thanks a lot for being with us, and we look forward to talking to you on Sunday. And congratulations on hiring the new coach at Arkansas. Hunter, of course, the athletic director at Arkansas. College football playoff selection show presented by AT&T, Sunday at noon Eastern time. Joey, how long is that show going to last?
That's going to be 3 hours, Reese.
Attaboy.
Three really good hours.
Joey, this is the year we might need that extra hour, and you got rid of it.
Well, let me know if you need it, Reese. I'll give it to you.
Probably only going to have Herbie for 30 minutes, though.
Is that it?
That's it.
College Football Playoff Top 25 is presented by AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Chick-fil-A move on the field is Alabama. Alabama in the Iron Bowl. And Ty Simpson didn't put up huge numbers, but he made 3 spectacular throws. 3 of the touchdown passes to Isaiah Horton. They also moved up a spot in the rankings, seemingly putting them in the field, barring getting blown out by Georgia. If Alabama were to beat Georgia and win the SEC, they go all the way up and get a first-round bye?
I don't think they get a bye. I think they get somewhere in the 5 or 6 neighborhood. I think the committee values Alabama's consistency, beating the 4 ranked teams in a row going through their stretch. When they're good, they can beat anybody. But I just think that loss to Florida State is probably going to keep them out of a first-round bye.
Yeah, I don't think they're getting up there either, even though they've had an amazing season. And they played a really good first half against Georgia the first time around, and they actually ended up winning the game because of that first half. They're going to have to play 4 quarters to get them this time. If they do win that game, I'm with Boog. They're getting in that 5 to 6 to 7 area.
I think they're going to bye if they win. I really do. I mean, you beat Georgia twice. I think Georgia drops down maybe 5-6 or so. Ole Miss will be right there. Everyone will kind of slide down. I wouldn't be surprised to get in the 4th spot. I would not be surprised at all. It depends a little bit on what happens with Texas Tech. How convincing is that? It depends a little bit on what happens in front of them, but I think it's absolutely within reach.
I wouldn't be upset. I mean, it wouldn't bother me if they went up there, but
it would be conference champions. The alternative would be the 3 Big Ten teams, and Texas Tech getting the buys. There's nothing wrong with that. The top 4 teams should get the buys. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But they value conference championships, so it'll be interesting.
We'll see.
I'm kind of with you guys, though. I don't think they quite make it. I'd say 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's a big long hop.
That's a big jump.
Big hop.
Quite. But we've seen some jumps here, and we saw a flip tonight, and we're going to see Florida and Duke now with Dan Shulman and Jay Billis.